everyone, welcome to another stamp camp over at 2Ps. This month, for this stamp camp, I'm going to focus on alphabet stamps and just a few of the different ways you can use alphabet stamps. The first way is I'm going to be making a background using some large letters. This stamp set is from, let's see, I think it's from Seven Gypsies. It's from their Savannah collection. And these huge, seemingly huge stamps would make a really great background for cards and for scrapbook pages. This one I'm actually going to be making like a little boy card out of it, probably for one of my nephews. And so here you've seen that I've cut out my little background that I've made, and I've assembled a little strip of paper. And I'm actually going to be putting the strip on top of the pattern paper, and then I'll be punching like a circle of white cardstock, and then I'll be doing a little bit of additional stamping on that. But I really wanted the background that I stamped, because I spent a long time on it. It takes a while to you know, mount all those stamps and make that background. I wanted that to show quite a bit, so I kept all the additional items on the card pretty simple. So here's a little frog stamp from Hero Arts, and that little crown is from a Maya Road stamp set. Make sure you check out all the related products with this class, and so you can get that stamp set for yourself, because it's so cute, especially with these little tiny animal stamps that Hero Arts has. They fit perfectly on top of the little animals, so that's really great. Here I'm using a blender pen to color in with some green, and I've just taken that green stamp pad and put it, like, stamped it right onto the acrylic block so that the ink pooled on that block so that I could pick it up with the blender pen. Doing the same thing with my brown ink that I stamped the frog and the crown. And I'm just gonna color in some ground underneath the frog so it doesn't look like he's completely floating. So let me do that really quickly. And this little scratch paper off to the side, that's to clean out the blender pen from any color that you have. That's how you clean blender pens. You just keep running it over paper, and it pulls all the ink or color out of the blender pen. So it's pretty much done there. I'm just taking a brown pen and drawing some little stitching around the circle of the little froggy crown prince frog thing. And then I'm going to be putting it straight onto the card, right over that, and that pretty much finishes up that card. And now we're going on to the next one, which is using smaller alphabet stamps to create a sentiment for a card. This is a Hero Arts stamp set, and I'm actually going to be stamping the word thanks. But before I stamp it, I'm going to show you a little tip that I actually picked up when I was learning calligraphy. When you have a word and you want it centered, go ahead and write it out on some scratch paper. In my case, it's going to be thank you. So the first word is thank, and I mark the center letter so that I know that is where I need to start stamping. And I'll start with an A, and I'll stamp that right in the center. A little bit of bug, so I'm going to put U underneath, thank you, you know, for Y-O-U underneath. And then I'll just stamp the letters to each side. And that helps you to make it a little bit more center. Granted, you know, the A is pretty wide and the T is pretty narrow, so it might not have been completely center, but it helps with placement, and that's great for when you're stamping because, you know, you can erase ink. So I'm just going to use this mini alphabet stamp from Hero Arts to stamp in Y-O-U for you. And now I have this circle card that I've cut out using the Card Shapes designer cuts. It's in the digital kits section of the 2P store. You can buy it there, and you can cut it with any digital cutter you have. It could be a Cricut or the Quick Cut Silhouette, which 2P sells as well. All the pieces for this card, all the circle cardstock pieces, are cut with that kit. Just adhered some ribbon around this card using some mini glue dots, and I'm going to tie with the ribbon. And that vellum that's in the center of the frame on this card, I actually just stamped with a polka dot stamp and then embossed with white embossing powder over top, and that made the window part of this card. Just going to snip off the ends of that ribbon. This is a really fun way to use ribbon if you don't want to use it in a traditional way with a bow or a knot or something like that. I knew that would get in the way on this card in particular, so I thought, why not have the ribbon hang off the side? Using some dimensional adhesive just to adhere the thank you to the card. And that finishes up this card as well. Pretty easy circle card. And how to use smaller alphabet stamps to create your own card sentiment. And the third way we're going to use alphabet stamps is almost as if you're making your own alphabet stickers, meaning you cut out your alphabet that you've already stamped. And I'm just going to show you some tips on how to do that cleanly. The first thing I do is I use an X-Acto knife or a hobby blade or any type of craft knife that you're comfortable with. And all the parts that are straight cuts, I always cut those first. So you see that I'm cutting all these parts on the U. And then I'll leave it alone and move on to the next letter. Because that rounded area of the U, I couldn't do that with an X-Acto knife very easy. The other thing I do is I also cut out each individual letter instead of holding the entire sheet of cardstock trying to cut them out. It's a little bit easier to handle. You'll notice I'm moving the stamped piece more than I'm moving my scissors. I find I have a little bit more control that way, and it's just easier to get some nice smooth curves. Okay, here's the letter you're probably all wondering how you would ever cut out and have it cut out cleanly and nice. This is the little S that I'm cutting out, and I will admit it's a hard one. You just have to slow down and take your time. And going around the outside area of the letter isn't as difficult as going into the inside. You'll notice here that I kind of struggle trying to get it to turn that corner, and especially being that I've already cut the other side. So, but once you get past a certain point, you can just cut straight and just snip off the end of that S, and it's perfect. Might be a little bit bent, but just, bend it back and you're set to go. The very last one is an O. That one's O is hard for people to cut out. And this is a little tip that I learned in design school because we had to cut out a lot of projects with X-Acto knives. A lot of people try to apply more pressure than they actually need to when they're cutting with an X-Acto knife. So ease up on the pressure. You just have to envision in your mind it only has to go through that little tiny layer of paper. And if your blade is very sharp, it'll go through with no problems whatsoever. So that'll help you get a cleaner cut out of the center of that O. And you'll notice that mine's not perfect, but it's okay. I mean, it's better than it could have been. So I'll just cut around the outside of the O, and that'll finish up the letters. Those are the main points I wanted to cover. And then also adhering them to your card. If you have any sort of dimensional adhesive, I mean, you could use like the Scotch foam tape or Pop Dots or anything like that. But if they're on a backer sheet like this, you can cut them apart and make them smaller. So that's what I've done with these Stampin' Dimensionals. I've made them small enough that I can put them onto the little letters and then adhere them to the card. I have to warn you, if you're going to make a card like this with a lot of letters, it's very time consuming. It's a little bit of a beast to get all of those little letters cut out and then all of them adhere to the card using a dimensional adhesive like this. But it's completely worth it because it's a really great look on a card, especially for something fun and playful like this card is. So I'm just going to adhere the last little letter on here, and that'll pretty much finish up the card. I hope you've enjoyed this little segment here on how to use alphabet stamps, and I will see you over on the message boards for when we discuss this week's class. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys later.